it's almost like art. It looks like something special when it's down, and it looks like something special when it's transformed.
I'm lucky enough as it is, you know. I mean, to be hired to do this and to you know, be paid to do it.
Motoring 91 is brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil.
Hello everybody and welcome to Bridgetown, Barbados. Now first of all, can you see me? Is this bright enough? Good. There are at least 4 things you can count on here in Barbados. Warm weather, beautiful beaches, friendly people, and lots of cars. In fact, they tell me the average household in Barbados owns at least 2. Now, if you're a tourist and you're looking for a way to get around, well, later on we'll show you some of your choices, and we'll also give you some advice on what to do and what not to do when driving a vehicle in a foreign country like Barbados. But first, we're going to join Nancy Zainos, who recently took in a monster truck show. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not big on these monster shows, at least from an entertainment point of view. But I do admire the men and women who literally take some metal, an engine, and 4 wheels and create. Well, here's Nancy with one of the latest creations.
Events are as spectacular as a monster truck extravaganza. This one at the Sky Dome in Toronto features a truck and tractor pull, a demolition derby, and championship mud racing. But every show has a special attraction. This is Boreon, the world's only jet-powered transforming robot car.
Well, in its down configuration, as it sits over there, it looks kind of like a fighter plane without wings on it. It's a real futuristic car. As it transforms and turns into a 2-story tall robot that delivers a message of positive thinking to the kids, actually talks, its eyes scanned, it's got a rocket launcher in one hand and a flamethrower in the other hand. The other thing that we've done is we've taken what a robot does in a movie and put it in front of people in live audiences, and that hasn't been done before. And where it shoots things and it really blows up stuff and it really has flamethrowers, they do that in movies with special effects. We've made it happen in person. That's really the biggest difference.
Larry Nagel is not only the jet car's owner, he is also the driver, designer, and builder. Featuring state-of-the-art technology and 4 years in the making, Boreon checked in at a total cost of over $500,000. And behind the scenes, maintenance and preparation continues right up until showtime.
One of the hardest things actually is getting it inside. Some of them are real hard to get indoors because the angles of the ramps are so steep and the car's so long. So once you get it indoors, you charge the batteries, you fill the nitrogen tanks, you fill the fuel tanks, you put the CO2 in it for special effects, you charge the fire extinguisher systems, you charge the batteries, and then you run a whole deal in the back here to make sure that it still works after being towed up and down the road. There's computer systems, electric, hydraulic, solenoids, turbine power, a lot of hydraulics, but it's nothing out of the ordinary, only out of the ordinary in the way it's combined.
Any problems, any surprise problems with it?
Well, fortunately, no. We really haven't had any mechanical problems at all with it. No real surprises. We've been real lucky, but when we construct it, we take a lot of time in doing it right, and that keeps from having a lot of shortcuts and pitfalls later.
It's really built for the kids. The percentage there of kids that see this, actually, he has a special message for the kids, and the kids have to call Boreon to wake him up. So it's really more of a child act than it is for an adult. But yet get a little bit deeper into this show, and all of a sudden adults have their chin in their chest thinking that it's real.
Turn off the main power. Yes, sir. And close the nitrogen tank. Wait a minute, Bill. Yeah. Before you do that, close the nitrogen tank. Let me bleed it a little bit. Shut the power off.
Well,
I don't know if the driving it's the exciting part anymore. I've been doing it a long time, but the audience reaction is what makes it exciting. You know, every time it fires a rocket or every time it says something and asks a question, to see that all these people answer this robot, it just turns me on.
It's nice to see not everyone is feeling the sting of the recession. You're looking at the first Lamborghini Diablo to make it to Canadian soil. This is the first of 2 Diablos that John Enoch of Autolin in Oakville, Ontario has sold to the same client at almost $500,000 a pop. The latest offering from Lamborghini is a foot longer than the Countach. It goes from 0 to 100 clicks in 4 seconds and is engineered to travel faster than 320 kilometers an hour. Not exactly a car to go sightseeing in, the Diablo has improved visibility and new this year, electric windows. If you think you see one on your street, better take a picture. Only about 20 are destined for Canada, with maybe 10 staying in the country.
In the pylon test, the Sentra tacked a true line with very little body roll, and only when pushed hard did any understeer become evident.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive, we look at the 1991 Nissan Sentra. Now, I've popped the hood to show the engine because this engine features variable valve timing. Until the Sentra, this was something that was exclusive to more expensive vehicles. In adding variable valve timing to this engine, Nissan have made high-tech affordable.
As I mentioned, the Sentra features variable valve timing. This and a state-of-the-art 1.6-litre 16-valve twin-cam engine produces 110 horses, which in turn produce 0 to 100 km/h times of around 10 seconds. The big advantage of variable valve timing is that it allows the engine to operate at its optimum over a much broader range. It also helps to give the engine low-end legs. Usually multi-valve engines suffer from a lack of low-end torque, which makes them feel rather lethargic off the line. During the brake test, I noticed that the brake pedal required an abnormally high amount of pressure to produce the desired brake effort. In fairness, I think this is due to the pads being glazed rather than it being an inherent problem. This glazing effect is usually caused by the brakes being overheated repeatedly. That aside, the anti-lock feature works its usual magic, producing stopping distances of 120 feet from 80 kilometers an hour. All stops were straight and required no steering correction. In the pylon test, the Sentra tacked a true line with very little body roll, and only when pushed hard did any understeer become evident. The Sentra's prowess here can be attributed to its fully independent suspension.
Believe it or not, this car was inspected by somebody named Savage. Now, fortunately for Nissan, he was Savage by name and not by nature, because this car is exceedingly well built, and the fit and finish is what I wanted to talk about because it is immaculate. The new Sentra is longer, wider, and now bears a very strong family resemblance to its larger siblings, the Stanza and Maxima. Inside, our GXE boasted a long list of standard equipment including power windows, locks and mirrors, a conveniently located cruise control, as well as air conditioning and a decent sounding stereo, all of which fell readily to hand. Interestingly, Nissan have switched the location of the radio and heater controls from the norm. If anything, reversing their locations has helped. The front seats offer plenty of lateral support and a good deal of comfort. The rear seats are fairly comfortable, but are a little cramped. The trunk features a nice bumper-level liftover with a very wide opening. Size-wise, it is large and well contoured. I liked the 60-40 split folding rear seats. They provided the much-needed versatility for skiers and the like. The seats can be locked in the upright position, which keeps your valuables safe and away from nosy visitors. This week, rather than a pet peeve, I have a comment, and it is that Nissan are to be congratulated for putting anti-lock brakes on a very affordable car. Having said that, I would have liked to have seen them offer the ABS feature on all models rather than just the vehicle we tested, the top-of-the-line GXE. Now to the scoreboard for the final rundown on the 1991 Nissan Sentra.
Thanks to variable valve timing, sequential multi-port fuel injection, and a healthy 110 horses, the Sentra romps to the 100k mark in just about 10 seconds, which by any standards is not too shabby. The Sentra's fully independent suspension put on an admirable showing during the pylon test. Body roll was minimal and there was only a hint of understeer when pushed. Despite the high pedal pressure required to stop the Sentra, the brakes functioned without a problem. The ABS feature, when activated, caused very little kickback in the pedal. We needed 120 feet to stop from 80 kilometers an hour. For a small car, the Sentra offers big car comfort. The suspension is compliant and the noise level never becomes overly intrusive. During our test, we averaged a very commendable 34 miles per gallon. It goes to show that it is possible to have your cake and eat it. This sort of economy with 110 horses is something to write home about. For years, the likes of the Toyota Corolla and Honda Civic have dominated this market segment. It's now time for these two to move over because Nissan mean business with the new Sentra. I concluded my time with the Sentra thinking just how good affordable cars have become.
We are now at Direct Rentals on the island of Barbados, and with me right now is the owner of Direct Rentals, Richard Cummins. And Richard, I know that for most of your life your passion, and still is, rallying. But for the past 11 years, your business has been renting automobiles out, and majority of them, of course, being rented out to tourists. For people watching in now who come to an island like Barbados, what is there to offer there as far as getting around the island?
Well, we have a range of vehicles starting with 6-seater vans right down to small 4-seater cars, which is like our economy model.
You see a lot of tourists, and especially a lot of young tourists, in open vehicles. Are they called mini-mokes? Is that what they're named?
They are. I don't personally recommend open vehicles because I think that you are more protected from all elements, including harassment in a vehicle with doors. But they are still reasonably popular on the island at present. We advise them how to cope with our roundabouts, which are not so popular in North America, and that seems to be the biggest problem right now. People do not know who to give way to on a roundabout, which side of the roundabout they should travel on when going around it.
Do you get a lot of requests for air conditioning?
We do. With the open vehicles becoming less popular, the air-conditioned vehicles have increased in popularity.
Well, Richard, thank you. And speaking of air conditioning, I know one gentleman who certainly has an opinion on air conditioning in cars, and that, of course, is our resident mechanic, Bill Gardner. So let's head to Bill's shop.
Another tough assignment, eh, Brad? Barbados must be nice. Well, I guess in the Barbados you could justify air conditioning on just about any kind of vehicle, but here in Canada, where summer consists of 8 weeks of poor sledding, I really wonder if it's all that necessary. When we see it included as a, quote, no extra cost option on many entry-level cars, I really wonder. I'd rather see that guy have 4 winter tires, an advanced driving school, or some extra rust protection, something that'll really benefit him down the road. But this air conditioning system is in place on many of today's cars, of course, and we can see some of the components involved. We can see the condenser assembly just ahead of the car's radiator. And we can see the compressor that's belt driven off the engine and some of the interconnecting lines involved in this system. Now, as well as adding weight and complexity to the car, many of these components are in the way when we want to service other assemblies or components on that car. So there's not only the initial cost of the system, it's going to add to your maintenance and repair costs down the road. Now, the air conditioning system contains a chemical called dichlorodifluoromethane. Now that's quite a mouthful. You probably know this chemical better by the name Freon or refrigerant 12. Now this is a very harmful chemical, and its automotive emissions of this chemical are one of the major depleters of the Earth's ozone layer. So it's something we have to be very careful with when we're servicing these cars. If you're taking your air-conditioned car in for service, make sure that whoever's performing that service has the proper equipment to capture and reuse that refrigerant. This technology does exist. We don't want to vent that into the atmosphere because it's extremely harmful chemical. If you have an older car and your system has fallen into failure, consider just letting sleeping dogs lie. You'll spend, in many cases, the price of the initial system just on a repair job, so forget about it. If it falls into failure, leave it. If you're buying a new car today, consider the fact that you may be able to live without air conditioning. This car, for example, has leather seats. I mean, you're guaranteed to sweat and stick to those babies in the summertime. You're going to have air conditioning. But if you had a cloth interior in light colors, maybe you could live without air conditioning. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 91.
We're back in Bridgetown, Barbados, and I want to give you just an idea how much money it can cost you to own a vehicle outside of North America. Now, this is a brand new Nissan van. It's been getting us around Barbados, and in Canada, this would cost you about $25,000. The same vehicle, if you purchase it here in Barbados, would cost you over $40,000. They tell me the duty on vehicles being imported into the country can reach as high as 150%. And to gas something like this is about $1.30 per liter. So it ain't cheap, folks. All right, we're now going to join Steve Grant, and Steve has a story about a young race car driver who finally may be getting the luck that he needs to be successful.
The 24-hour race here at Daytona International Speedway is the first event of the season. Therefore, it's used as kind of a spring training for a who's who of racing families. The Andrettis are here, the Unsers, and Indy 500 champion Arie Luyendyk. But there's also a Canadian here you may not have heard much about. But Jeremy Dale is carving out quite a name for himself here in the United States. Like most drivers of this caliber, Jeremy Dale's career began behind the wheel of a go-kart. Now 15 years later and only 27 years old, Jeremy Dale is all set for an opportunity a lot of his colleagues would give their throttle foot for. A factory ride in Nissan's Group C car, the same prototype that competes at Le Mans.
Well, it's a very big deal for me. I've been racing in the United States for a number of years now, and for factory teams for the last 3 or 4 years. And this is my second year with Nissan. 1990, I did the GTO program. I'll do that again this year. We're not running our GTO cars at this particular race, so that left Steve Mellon and I open to come and run with the GTP team. I'm definitely the junior guy on the team, but you know they've made me feel real welcome, and they've helped me out a great deal, and I'm having a really good time.
For all of last year, Jeremy has driven Nissan's 700 horsepower 300ZX in the IMSA series. That's almost as much fun as this Formula 3 Cooper that he restored and raced when he was only 17.
Jeremy Dale of Toronto in the 1959 Cooper Formula 3 will win the post-war Formula race.
Meanwhile, back at Daytona, the Nissans are fighting a driving rain, not to mention the always powerful and defending champion V12 Jags.
Oh, I'm very, very happy, you know, that Jeremy is one of our drivers, and yeah, he's a great driver, and I'm sure he's going to do a great job for us. That's one of the reasons I'm down here to see this race.
Jeremy Dale is well aware of just how fortunate he is landing a factory ride with Nissan. Number one, you don't have to worry about steady employment, and you don't have to go around drumming up sponsorship. But he also knows that ego has to take a back seat, because when you're a factory driver, the car is front and center.
I'm lucky enough as it is, you know. I mean, to be hired to do this and to you know, be paid to do it, and to be just part of this effort. It allows you to really focus yourself on your racing, not having to worry about finding money to go racing, you know. And if you're in single-seater cars, you know, you're pretty much the guy that has to go out and find the money to go racing. And if you're with a big factory, you know, your job is to drive, and you're hired, and you show up and you drive the race car. And you know, maybe the racing isn't considered quite as prestigious, you know, because the open wheel cars are maybe considered, more of a pure form of racing. But, these are very serious race cars, and Nissan and all the other manufacturers here are very committed to what they're doing in racing.
Last 2 races, and Jeremy Dale's managed to get around him now. Steve Miller looks like he wants to get out.
Watch this back. Indeed he is. He's fighting for him there, and looking up in front, this skirmish. The 9 car in trouble, hard into the barrier.
A week later, and Jeremy's at home consumed with another race. This one, however, is on videotape.
Okay, so this book looks like a good book. It has a lot of information on different cities and what's going on in the different cities and stuff.
I guess I've been going out with Jared for about 5 years now, or almost 6 years. And no, I wasn't a motorsports fan. And I guess for the first 3 years, when people would ask what he drives, I would say, well, it has 4 wheels and a steering wheel. And yeah, I have become a bit of a fan. I would really like to see whatever Jared would like happen. I don't really have any ambitions for him beyond what his own ambitions are, but I hope it's a great success for him because he deserves it and he works really hard and he's also a really great guy. And as long as he's happy, I'm happy.
Kenzie's Corner with Jim Kenzie.
How would you like to be a police officer approaching a car like this to give it a traffic ticket? I mean, with windows this dark, you couldn't tell whether the driver was reaching for his license or a submachine gun. Well, that's why police officers hate cars with tinted windows, and at least for front windows, they're illegal in some jurisdictions. But why do people tint their windows anyway? Well, they say it's to reduce the amount of damage caused by the sun or to help their air conditioner perform better. Let's face it, they tint their windows because they want to look cool. It's the same reason people wear sunglasses in movie theaters. But tinted windows aren't only potentially dangerous for police officers, they're dangerous for everybody else on the road too, because you can't see out of them. Now, I know this from personal experience. My Suburban came from the factory with dark tinted rear side windows, and lane changing at night is a real adventure. But there's another reason why people like tinted windows, and that's for the privacy that they offer, particularly in a car like this. But when I'm in a limo, I want everybody to see me because I want them to try and guess what rock band I'm in. So let's do ourselves a favor, improve our visibility and leave the tinted windows to the limos. Oh, Steve, we're not sponsored by a window tint company, are we? Okay. I'm Jim Kenzie. See you later.
Some of the best kept cars in Barbados are the taxis. This is a 79 Datsun 280. The plastic was put on from day one. This cab, like most cabs in Barbados, are in immaculate shape. Believe me, a lot of the cab companies in North America could learn a lot by coming down here.
Where you want to go right now, sir?
How about the beach?
We have a very lovely beach on the West Coast.
We're going to the beach, and we'll see you next week for more stories and more cars on Motoring 91.
Motoring 91 has been brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil.